I'll call the meeting to order. All right, are we properly noticed?
The meeting has been noticed according to law.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Harding.
Here.
Commissioner Lederhouse.
Here.
Commissioner Morath. Here. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
First, I'd like to welcome, we have a new Plan Commission member, Jen Olson. So thank you very much. This will be her first time, but not new to municipal government. So looking forward to having you here. Thank you. I think you're our applicant, so I don't think we have any citizen participation because the room is so packed full of people. So we'll move on past citizen participation. We'll move on to approval of minutes for May 12th, 2025.
Motion approved as presented.
Second.
I'll let Danette get her notes. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to ordinances, code amendments. Item 1, potential revisions to the comprehensive plan regarding replacing the two-family residential land use category with a new category called single-family and two-family residential, with possible recommendation by the Plan Commission to the village board. So, Orrin, do you want to, I know we've talked about this for a bit, but maybe remind us and catch Jen up for us.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this for a while. So this came out of a realization that there was a disconnect between our land use map and the zoning for some of the areas around downtown. The overall goal of this is to just create more conformity, if you will. If there's areas that have duplexes within a single-family existing neighborhood around downtown, that either could be allowed, single-family residential or two-family. The proposal, the land use map amendment component of this that's in your packets shows a cross-hatching for the parcels that would be impacted by this. Again, this doesn't take away rights from anyone. If you have an existing single-family home, you're going to be conforming with this land use. If you have a duplex, you're going to be conforming with this land use. So either will now work. If you have a TR8 zoning with a single-family home, that's allowed in that zoning. If you have a TR8 zoned lot and it's vacant and you wanted to build a duplex, now you could do that. It would work out. If you had a single-family zoned property, and let's say you had a duplex on a single-family zone property, now you're consistent with the land use. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with this. So the last time we talked about this, the direction was to go ahead and prepare a public hearing notice and get that published, which we've done. The public hearing, per the process spelled out in the comprehensive plan, takes place at the board. And so you all will be making a recommendation. There's a resolution that outlines the proposed changes to the text and to the map of the comprehensive plan that were in your packets. And the Plan Commission recommendation, again, goes to the board for their consideration and their ultimate approval. So the public hearing notice, again, we had to do that way in advance because it's a Class 1 30-day notice, unlike some of our other application types, which are a Class 2 and don't take as much lead time. If there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to help answer those. I think the biggest thing with this is just that if you're way zoomed out on the map, it's maybe a little hard to tell which areas we tinkered with. That's why I did the zoomed in image in your packets for what was provided. But when you do get in on it, you can definitely tell what's going on. There's a larger version of the map that we've had here at Village Hall, in case anybody needed to take a look at that. That's over by the door on the easel. And we'll make sure that we get an updated version of this for you all to hang here, should it get adopted.
Thank you, Orrin. Any questions?
So if this like with some of the smaller homes, like I live on Clayton, there's a couple that are smaller, quite a few on Chafin. If they were to want to build up and add a duplex, is that encouraging that?
It would still have to be consistent with the zoning. And so if it's an SR4 zoning, which is the, the regular suburban residential district, that does not necessarily allow you to have a duplex. But if you have TR8 zoning, then that, you can do that by right in that zoning district. So, folks could propose, if they have this land use, they could propose to do something like change the zoning, and then those would be looked at on a case-by-case basis and the merits of that particular situation with that lot.
Yeah, so like for your property, like here on Chafin, that's not really changing, but what we were finding is we actually had some duplexes in some of these areas, and so they were non-conforming, but they had been there for so long, it was kind of like, okay, well, let's get this cleaned up. And then as we think about, these are in areas where we already have higher density to begin with, so that you can see like your area doesn't have as much higher density, or neither does, over here, right? And then as he was saying, if we go up here, like these are, subdivisions, so it doesn't really have that there.
Yeah, I probably should have got a little more into the past of this. So regarding kind of how we got to this, we were looking at the TR8, specifically we had a resident who had a TR8 parcel and was interested in splitting off and potentially making that lot, I'm sorry, they were zoned SR4, but they had enough room to rezone to TR8. And potentially have a smaller lot in the back portion that's undeveloped. It's a larger lot, open spot in the back that could have been a new residential property. But to rezone to TR8, you would need to be consistent with a land use that allows for two-family. And it was just recommending single-family Seward, like much of the area around the downtown. And the single-family Seward, doesn't specifically mention two-family in it as something that would be allowable. The two-family that was referenced in the land use part of the comp plan said that it was unmapped and generally intended to be within a planned neighborhood setting, a component of that. And the area that's planned for a planned neighborhood is kind of northwest of the village, in an area of the town that's undeveloped currently. And so, there is existing two-family, and we're, as a plan commission, thinking about and talking about how do we make housing more affordable, how are we more friendly to housing in the village. And so this was one of the kind of low-hanging fruit in that discussion of how we could potentially help accomplish those goals and kind of help fix an issue that was hanging out there with the land use.
Good question. Other questions? So again, there's a proposed resolution here in your packet that would go to the village board for a public hearing. And if we do that, that public hearing would be when, Oren?
At the next meeting.
Next week?
Yep.
Okay.
I will make a motion to recommend to the village board the approval of the revisions to the text and an amendment to the future land use map of the village's adopted comprehensive plan to replace the two-family residential land use category with a new category called single-family and two-family residential.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. On to miscellaneous business. Item 1, request for an exception to allow a larger attached garage than what is otherwise allowed in Section 510-20 of the Village Zoning Code for property located at 2931 Mallard Way, RB RO 00043, Ricky R. Is it Mead? Meady, thank you. Applicant, application 2025-13, discussion and possible action by the Plan Commission. So I guess, Orin, do you want to kind of walk us through here? And then obviously we have the applicant here, so he can answer any questions that we might have.
Yeah, I'll help walk you through this. I had to actually look into this as well, because I haven't had this come up yet. So I've had similar processes to this in other communities. This is my first time going through this one with you all here in East Troy. So Mr. Mady has a single-family home and wants to do a garage addition. And so he approached the building inspector regarding what permitting would be required for his garage addition. And the building inspector alerted him to the fact that there's a portion of the code, which is included in my staff review, which would be 510-58.1, that allows exceptions to the maximum area of attached garage regulations from the code. So the SR4 district allows you to have an attached garage, but the maximum area of the attached garage needs to be, or cannot exceed 70% of the home, essentially. So the idea there is that the scale is appropriate, that you don't have a garage with a home attached to it, essentially. So looking back into the history of this, and when this new code section came about, it was back in 2023. So the village board adopted ordinance 2023-04, and that amended the zoning code to allow a maximum area of 70% for attached garages in residential districts. So that's where that 70% came from. And then it created section 510-58.1, which is the exception process that you all can approve, subject to certain criteria being met. And so Mr. Mady submitted a zoning permit application and all of the details regarding the garage that he wants to and intends to build. And if you look at the code sections, the things that need to be determined under 510-58.1A, the attached garage has no more than 3 side-by-side vehicles facing the right-of-way from which the dwelling unit has street access, which checks out. If you look at the bottom of page 2, the elevation from Mr. Mady's architect shows that there will be a little bit of a return added to the front of the garage, and the roof line will be extended slightly, but it'll still remain a 2-car garage as far as what the appearance of it is from the front. And if you look at the remainder of the elevations from the packet, it shows the addition going behind essentially the existing garage to make it a tandem parking situation. So you just don't notice it much from the front of the building. So I've got the existing street view of the home, and then the elevation of what the front of the home will look like in my staff review, and then the rest of the elevations from the other sides of the house/garage are in the packet. Number 2 says that the attached garage complies with all other requirements of this chapter. Number 3, the grant is subject to an equivalent reduction in the total floor area of accessory buildings that are allowed on the lot. So for this type of lot with this zoning, you're allowed a certain amount of attached garage, and then you're allowed a building under 150 square feet and 1 additional detached accessory structure. So what this rule is saying is that by applying for the increased attached garage, you're foregoing the equivalent size of what you could have had for a detached accessory structure. So it doesn't impact the existing shed, but you're losing the opportunity of whatever square footage you could have had for the detached structure if this gets approved. So that's condition number 2 in my staff review, addresses that. Now, this language here in 510-58.1A3 says that you have to, the grant is subject to the equivalent reduction. It doesn't say how to achieve that. In another part of the code where it talks about having a larger detached accessory structure than what's allowed, it specifically references having a deed restriction be the vehicle for making sure that that's complied with in the future. And so that's what I'm recommending here. Again, it doesn't say that you have to do it that way in this part of the code, but if you go to the accessory structures portion of the code, and in the inverse process of doing a larger detached structure than what's allowed, it does reference, so for consistency's sake, that's how I'm proposing it. It's up to the Plan Commission if you are amenable to that. As far as the details of what's being requested, so it's an approximately 900 square foot addition to the attached garage for 1,300 square feet total of attached garage space. It's approximately 455.8 square feet larger than the 70% maximum allowed without an exception. And so that is the number that I subtracted from what could have been allowed for a detached building. So that's how I arrived at this 28.2 square feet of what's left that could be done as a potential future detached structure. Not a lot, but there's something left there. So also in making your decision under 510-58.1B, you must take each of the following determinations into consideration as well. The architecture of the oversized garage is compatible with the dwelling unit. The oversized garage will not be adverse to the public health, safety, or welfare. The oversized garage will not be in conflict with the spirit or intent of this chapter, and the oversized garage will not otherwise be detrimental to the village or the immediate neighborhood where the structure would be located. And then at letter C, it allows the Plan Commission to impose such conditions it deems necessary, including a requirement for screening and/or landscaping. So those are the things that you all need to consider. It's up to the chair how you want to go through these. I've put into a condition number 1 that the plan, if you find all of these to be met, that it says the Plan Commission has made the necessary determinations per 1 through 4 in this section, if you do find all of those to be met. Otherwise, we could go through them and do a by consensus if everybody feels they're being met. Again, up to you, Chair, how you want to do that.
Yeah, I think we could do that, but is there anything you want to add as to, before we start going through this point by point? Anything we should know? Yeah, because we do have it, on YouTube, so they wouldn't be able to hear you.
There you go.
Aesthetically, it would make the house look better with the addition on to the existing home than to have a separate structure in the backyard, which I think to my neighbors would be more of an eyesore than have it attached to the home. And with the windows that are drawn in there, which I want for natural light, that does make it look more part of the home itself and not just a garage.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I appreciate that. I noticed, too, you're going to remove that tree that you have in the backyard. Are you thinking like any additional plantings back here or anything like that, or in the future?
Not at the moment. Unfortunately, that's one of my best maple trees I have to remove, and that'll just be eliminated. I do have other maples, but not at this time. I don't plan on moving that tree or anything.
I guess I was trying to find, I lost it now. The setback, yeah, here we go. So there's a 10-foot setback, right, Orin? There's, I guess, a 10-foot, yeah, the side yard's 10-foot setback. So this is going to be 10 foot 9 inches, right?
Yep.
So I guess just seems tight. I just want to make sure that like if we approve this and you're going through construction, that we don't end up like, a few feet over that, because then I wouldn't want to have like your neighbor come in and, complain. It's just that one little spot right there, so. It says 8 men setback, 8 foot. I was wrong. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Overall, if you.
All right. Other questions before we get into each of the points?
Is there any discussion on landscaping or the impervious surface changing so there's no drainage to your neighbor?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
With the change in the impervious surface going backwards, is there a drainage plan so that there's no drainage to the neighbor's yard?
No, there's no drainage plan on there. That area isn't too bad as far as drainage. I do get the runoff from my neighbors behind me, and that is one area on that lot line where I do get some of the more water than other areas. But it shouldn't affect that at all.
As far as
Thank you.
the condition of meeting all the other code requirements, I did look at, what the existing building coverage was versus what the proposed building coverage was, and it is still meeting the code, what's allowed. So it was about 10.64%, and it'll be 16.6 with the proposed addition. And again, that's still meeting the code requirements for the SR4 district, which I think allows 30% max building coverage.
Other questions before we go into the points? All right, Orin, I'll follow your lead. So you, just take it point by point.
Okay, so, we'll just start with A. We'll do the A1. The attached garage has no more than 3 side-by-side vehicles facing the right-of-way from which the dwelling unit has street access. Does the Plan Commission agree with that?
Yes.
Yep, seeing nods. Number 2, the attached garage complies with all other requirements of this chapter. I will just tell you that having looked, I believe it does. So, A3, the grant is subject to an equivalent reduction in the total floor area of accessory buildings that are allowed on the lot. Is the Plan Commission amenable to condition 2 in Fourth staff review, which is stating this grant is subject to an equivalent reduction in the total floor area of accessory buildings that are allowed on the lot. A deed restriction shall be recorded with the Walworth County Register of Deeds office as approved by the zoning administrator, limiting the size of a detached accessory structure constructed at a later date to 28.2 square feet unless the existing attached garage is removed or modified so as to comply with regard to floor area. Amenable?
Are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. B1, the architecture of the oversized garage is compatible with the dwelling unit. Does the Plan Commission find that? Okay. B2, the oversized garage will not be adverse to the public health, safety, or welfare. I'm seeing nods. Yeah.
I do just have one question, because it is a pretty large space. No type of, I guess, like construction or loud maintenance or anything, like larger pieces of equipment that might disrupt neighbors or anything like that.
No, I will take care of the landscaping and that between me and my neighbor right there. They had a fence installed right there, and they had to redo it, and they weren't happy with the contractor that did it. And I'm very close with my neighbor on that side, and I will work with him to make things right if he wants something changed. And if I can work that out for him, I will do that. So,
And I guess that within, like, once it's built, you know, like it's a, what was it, 700 something more square feet, you know, are you just looking to use it as like a garage to work on vehicles, or are you going to have any like loud equipment or anything like that that might be disruptive to the neighborhood?
no, it's just for a garage to work on cars and everything. I have a couple cars in my existing garage, which if I want to do anything, I have to pull them out into the driveway. I do have one more vehicle yet that's been in storage for 6 years that I've been paying insurance on, hasn't seen the light of day, and that needs to come home. And I'd like more room so I could also work on that one.
I have one of those too, so.
Okay, so we're on to B3. The oversized garage will not conflict with the spirit or intent of this chapter. Yep, seeing nods from the Plan Commission. Okay, number B4, the oversized garage will not otherwise be detrimental to the village or the immediate neighborhood where the structure will be located. Okay. I don't know anything. All right, so looks like we can keep the language for the first condition, which says the Plan Commission had made the necessary determinations per 510-58.1B 1 through 4 of Chapter 510.
Okay. Just rereading this. I guess I'm just curious, your timeline, are you looking to get this constructed here this year or next year?
This year, I already have contractors on board, and they want to know when they can start.
And if we approve, he's done, this doesn't have to go to the village board next week, right?
Correct. So he's got applications into the building inspector, and he's got a zoning permit, so we would get those done on our ends, our individual permitting, and then we would work with Rick to get this deed restriction recorded. But yeah, there wouldn't be any other steps necessary from the Plan Commission or the board.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
I will make a motion to approve an exception for approximately 900 square foot addition to the attached garage for 1,300 square feet of total attached garage floor space for the property located at 2931 Mallard Way, East Troy, Wisconsin 53120. RBRO 00043, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 4.
I'll second it.
All right. Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for going through this with us. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to seeing your cars around town. All right. Recommendations for future agenda items. This comprehensive plan amendment's taken us a bit of time just because, as Orin said, it was a type 1 posting. Tiny homes as accessory uses in residential zoning districts, revise application requirements for rezoning petitions, and potential regulations / information related to front yard setbacks on side-loaded homes. Is there anything else anybody wants to add? Is there a preference on prioritization? Or your thoughts on prioritization, Orin? Yep, okay, we'll do that one next. All right, next meeting, July 14th, 2025 at 6:30 if needed. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. You're done. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah.